Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another Mind Travel Cafe podcast. This is our second season. We are so excited to get started in 2025. So for our very first episode, we're going to be interviewing Sarah Della Vedova. Sarah's in a wonderful business called Hestia Wellness. It has a lot to do with using her intuitive abilities, her mediumship skills, and also some healing and sound healing. So Sarah, if you could, for our guests, just tell them a little bit about yourself, but mostly about your business. And then we're going to really dive in and talk about how you got here.
Thank you, Melissa. I'm so happy to be here. Great to meet everyone. My name's Sarah Della Vedova. I am the owner and creator of Hestia Wellness. We provide psychic services as well as metaphysical services, primarily in the Tampa Bay, Florida area. Mediumship, psychic parties, reiki healings. We do sound baths as well. And this year, we're going to be launching more online, providing services to everyone, everywhere. I was inspired by my own wellness journey to create this company and help others along their paths. Hestia is the Greek goddess of the home and the hearth. So I wanted to find a home for others who are on this path, who are seeking the same things I did.
So what a great way for us to launch this online service for Sarah. We'll have that information in the description below of all of her social media and website channels. All right, Sarah, so let's just get into it. Let me just ask you, can you share with us what inspired you to start your wellness journey and establish Hestia Wellness?
Okay, so I would say a momentous occasion that really spirited me into this wellness journey was around the pandemic in 2020. I had moved from the Midwest in Minnesota to Florida. I didn't know anyone. I moved here for a job opportunity in software sales, of all things. And a series of events happened that led me to my quote unquote rock bottom. I was seeking. I had a father pass away suddenly. I was going through a breakup. I didn't know anyone in Florida. I was born and raised in Minnesota. And this was a time where I think there was a collective awakening, really. And so the way I did it was by hitting this rock bottom and trying to fill my cup with drinking and partying and materialistic things and very surface things. I realized that the only thing that's really going to work is a spiritual path. And I had an awakening where I was able to connect with my guides and connect with my angels and my father who passed on the other side through a series of events that led me to open up and surrender to the process. And a few years later, I don't even know how I existed without this path, right? I think I was on it and I veered away and then on it again and veered away. And at this point, I'm sticking with it.
It's really interesting that period of time, how big of a change, a shift for a lot of people. Right? I think that's really where I started to, I think I had some suspicion, right? We have experiences through our life, but very similar journey. How would you describe, the services, the psychic services and the spiritual tools that you offer?
So there are quite a lot of services that I've uncovered and I've brought into Hestia Wellness. The first one would be Reiki. I do believe that, being attuned to energy healing such as Reiki can help us increase our ascension and vibration to then grow into more metaphysical tools and mediumship, psychic abilities. That's what happened to me. And so I provide Reiki healing services as well as psychic readings. Mediumship opened up for me on my path. I didn't expect it. I was taking psychic classes through the Golden Rose with Dr. Lauren Celio, and It happened in one of my sessions with someone, and I never looked back. So, yeah. So mediumship is another offering that we have, as well as sound healing and sound baths. I have been certified as a Reiki master, certified as a sound healer, and I also have been professionally trained as a clairvoyant to be able to hone in these natural abilities and define them and know what they are, to then be able to give back to others. And I would love to continue to grow and grow Hestia Wellness, and hopefully bring on more people who want to give back and be of service.
What a wonderful way to cover all the different types of energetic and spiritual healing. Because I think, and I'm sure you probably do too, anytime we give a psychic healing and mediumship readings, they really can be a healing for people. It has that ability to shift our energy. But I myself have found with mediumship how healing that can be for people, to just have a sense of comfort that there really is something beyond death.
Yes.
So I find that really, really cool that you offer that as well. So what would you say finding, your quote unquote healing path means to you, and how can we help others begin to understand or uncover theirs?
Yes. So I do believe that a lot of us are called to this work and to start your healing path. Anyone can start their healing path, but it does take a lot of patience and work, and it's a beautiful process, but you have to be willing to really go there. Is what I say. I think we're always healing. First of all, there is no end point. But when I think of healing, I think of basically not fully in tune with who you are, and not being happy, or not feeling fulfilled, or feeling just like you have no purpose or no passion or no path. That's a sign of needing to have some sort of healing, right? When we heal, we transform and we transmute, and we are able to then grow that empathy and grow that change within, so that we can help others. Then they help others, and it's just this domino effect.
Right.
So a lot of us who grow up with maybe a traumatic childhood, or we may have a death in the family, or something sudden happened to us physically, mentally, spiritually, we do have a choice to heal. And because we have free will, we're able to do that. And when we do, it's magical. It really is. It's not the easiest path in the beginning, but it's worth it. It really is.
I agree. We might talk about that a little bit more in a minute, because that brings up another question. But first, what I want to ask is, how did you first tap into your intuitive and your psychic abilities?
So this is an interesting question, because I believe I've always had intuitive and psychic abilities. I just didn't know that's what they were called. So when I was a child, probably around 5 or 6, I had a friend pass away. She was around my age. And I remember going to the funeral, and I could see her swinging on the ceiling. And I just knew she was an angel from God, swinging in the ceiling of this church, this funeral that we were in. And she would come to me through shadows and things like that. I would share this type of thing with family and friends. And, unfortunately, a lot of the times people who aren't raised around this type of thing, they don't know what it is, so I think, long story short, I suppressed these intuitive abilities, but that's when I first really knew that I was in touch with the other side, outside of just, children are very, very gifted. Let's just say that.
You knew you had these things happening from a very early start. Mm-hmm. And we talked a little bit about some of your journey once you moved. What was it, though, that just clicked and you went, I can do this?
I would say it was actually when I moved here to Florida, and within a matter of weeks, my father passed away suddenly. And man, was he connected. So when he passed, I had so many different visions, and um, it's just bizarre, all of the sequence of events that led me to mediumship in general. But I think that was a pivotal moment, was when my father passed away. And I know that I share a similar story to other mediums where they had someone close to them pass away. And because of that love and that connection from source, you just couldn't make up some of the things that were happening, all these synchronicities in life. I remember I was at my parents' home cleaning things out after he passed, and I had this weird intuition to look at a cupboard on top of the fridge. I have the chills as I'm saying this.
Right.
And I opened the cupboard on top of the fridge, like, why? Why do this? I put my hand in there and I pull my hand back, and I see a mug that I had made for my dad at the age of 10 that said, "I love you, Daddy. I love you, Sarah," and a picture of us.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, there's no way that this is a coincidence, right? I mean,
Right.
you can't make that up. So
Right.
things like that started to happen. And I was a lot more open due to, I think I was grieving, right? But I was way more open to it. And I just surrendered to the spiritual process after that. It was very natural. I felt very safe, and I felt very, very loved. And at that point, I didn't realize I was going to help others with this gift or professionally become a medium. But that's really where it started to uncover, and I started to look for other people who believe in this and understand this as well, which then led me to, Golden Rose, which I'm so grateful for, because it helps me to embrace this. And I don't know what I do without it, without all of these
Exactly.
tools. So
I know it's weird once you get to a certain point, you're like, how would I ever go back? Well, how do you blend? What would you say you blend your psychic insights when you're doing your healing methods? Like if you happen to be doing Reiki or one of your other healing modalities, do you also incorporate some of the intuitive hits that you get?
No, I actually don't. I prefer not to, because I do believe that they're very separate healing modalities. And sometimes people aren't fully, I definitely use my discernment, my intuition if something were to come up. But, I think people come to you when they're ready for certain messages. And I've learned that, I can't go to the grocery store, out in the grocery store, and I see someone's, grandfather that passed away, and go knock on them and, tell them, "Hey, I see your grandfather. Your grandfather says hi." You can't, so
I know.
I would say I don't necessarily incorporate the mediumship or readings in Reiki or sound healing. But I do incorporate spirituality in those modalities. I do believe that offering and knowing that there's something outside of ourselves that's healing us and connecting us is really powerful. So I always say that within my session, that, um, these healing modalities are from source, and they're natural, and they're holistic, and they're healing. So
I like how you phrase that, because it's so true. Everybody's on a different stage and they're coming to you for a certain thing. Sometimes that is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, when people read you and you didn't ask to be read. It's like, I feel like that's like looking up your psychic skirts. It's like, I didn't ask, Or when I tell people what I do, sometimes I can see they get a little nervous, and I'm like, trust me, I am not reading you. Right?
Right, exactly. Right. We're trusted with these gifts from spirit. I always say, we work for spirit. So I'm very careful about that. I'm careful about who I share it with, how I share it. I've had, as you know, plenty of experiences where people can be very scared, and they think of the Hollywood, charlatan culture of psychics. And then,
Sure.
as you know, we're just normal people.
So were there any challenges you faced personally or professionally when you started to embrace this path? And how did that help you grow and develop?
I would say yes. I suppressed my abilities or the word psychic or intuitive for quite a long time based off of, the people I had that I was surrounded with in Minnesota. Um, so I think when I moved to Florida, it was a lot easier for me to kind of reinvent myself in a way where I could authentically be me. Um, but I would say that throughout my career in the corporate world, working in software sales, uh, I would have little intuitive hits, and people would be like, "How did you know that?" Or I would talk about something about the client that pertained to a solution that we needed, and it just was like, or I picked up on something like way too quickly, and they're like, "How did that happen?" But I knew why, and so. Um, I think that was a struggle. I'd never fully connected with people because, you know, I would drink too, which I no longer drink. But I would drink and I would tell people who was cheating on them. I had no filter, and people did not. Speaking of people who didn't want to know, you know, certain
Right.
things and knowing discernment, like that's how I am the way I am now because I lost a lot of friends by telling people the truth that they didn't want to hear. And so,
Right.
yeah, I think that my abilities came out sideways quite a lot because I suppressed it and I didn't really know what it was or didn't really want to look into it because of the way my surroundings were. It just didn't make sense at the time. I needed to be in a different place or a different community where I was respected and I was, honored for these gifts as opposed to, oh, that's not real, or what are you talking about?
So that's really helpful, I think, for some people to hear that they're not the only one that struggled, trying
Yes.
to identify their gifts or finding a place for that in their life if this isn't something that they're, into, right? Because some people don't choose to become readers or healers or whatnot. And it's like, how do I incorporate these abilities, into my life? So I think that's really healing for people to hear that. How
Yes.
do you protect and replenish your own energy, right? As a healer and as a psychic or medium.
There are so many different ways to protect your own energy. I believe that after a healing session, I myself need to do a lot of self care. I will sage, do Palo Santo, Epsom salt baths, walks in nature, walks with my dog, rest, rest. And also, grounding is important too. Um, I love playing the guided meditations that are offered in so many different ways that can also help clear my space energetically. But I tend to stay away from, my clairvoyancy and my third eye after a session because I need to ground quite a lot. So there's certain techniques that we've been taught, right? I've been taught through the Golden Rose where there's certain techniques I'll do and I'll kind of do it over and over again until I stop feeling that energy, which is great too. Um, but I always say there's more than one way. There is more than one way, and each person is so unique that one day it may work really well for them, like a walk in nature, but then another day, going to their favorite concert may be a great way to ground. So you have to really tune into yourself.
I like that because it's true. There's no one size fits all for everyone. And it's good to try new things because all of a sudden maybe that will hit you in a different way that you didn't really, or weren't cognizant of or feeling before. And then you're like, oh, that's another thing that I could do. So good suggestions. I like that a lot.
Sound healing and Reiki, I do my own. I have my crystal ball and I'll do that. And I do self Reiki or I go to my own Reiki. We need healing just as much as, everyone else. So I'll go to my own Reiki healer or there's a sound bath person who specializes in sound baths here that I'll go to as well. And that's something with the divine feminine that I'm starting to understand too, is that we do have that empathy and we're able to give, but we have got to give back to ourselves. So self-love and self-care is a big message that I like to share with others within Hestia Wellness, because without that, we're not able to serve the way that we want to.
There's something that one of our instructors had shared with me about self-love and taking care of ourselves. And it has rung so true for me that I end up sharing it a lot when I do readings for people that I can see need to focus a little bit more on self-love. And that is, if you had a child or somebody that you completely loved and cared about, and you knew that they just needed one thing that was really going to make them feel better, what would you do to make that happen for them? Right? You probably move heaven and earth to help them feel better. And yet we don't do that for ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. So that's usually what I give as advice when I see somebody, when I'm doing a reading and I can see that they need to work a little bit on self-love. It's like, make yourself a priority, because honestly, you're just as important as any other being here. And for you to be able to continue that work that you want to do, you've got to fill yourself up. You've got to find that thing that makes you feel better, right? So that you can keep going, if nothing else. We talked a little bit about the importance of community. How do you create a space, or that type of space, at Hestia Wellness?
So within the past few years for Hestia Wellness, we've partnered with a lot of local partnerships here in Tampa. One of them, this is a national nonprofit, the Phoenix. They actually are a nonprofit for those who are seeking a sober community. And so at Hestia Wellness, we'll offer free sound baths on a monthly basis through the Phoenix. And it's a beautiful community for those who are searching for a different way of life. And that's in a way we give back. And then I'm really looking forward to expanding outside of Tampa, because, I'll do psychic fairs, and, do readings at metaphysical stores or events here in Tampa. But I'd love to expand the community more online at this point, so that we can all come together. It doesn't have to just be local here in Tampa. So that's really what I'm excited about. So we'll have workshops, guided meditations, and a community on, YouTube, a community on Instagram, Facebook, wherever you feel at home. And I'm looking forward to calling a collective of people who just want to continue on this journey as well.
There is something about when you have multiple people all in that caring space, how amplified that can be and how that energy just raises up. So I love that you're thinking about developing that even more, because that's, and of course what you're doing with your community, because it's so needed. It's so needed. So it's beautiful to see people willing to step outside themselves and do that. So we talk a little bit about some of the services. What would you say are some common misconceptions that people have about psychic services or spiritual wellness?
I would say some misconceptions that people have would be that psychic services or spiritual wellness, it may be too woo-woo. The word woo-woo comes out, or placebo effect, that's weird. It's normally people who have never experienced it yet. So it's hard to, it's hard to judge until you actually have experienced it. So the reason why I think that happens is because of the way that culture has made it feel like, I don't know, things are changing quite often now. But I know that I grew up in a culture that was against psychic services and against spirituality, and more so about religion. And so I would see a lot of religious practices being done, but if you were to call it something else, it's wrong, even though they're doing it in the same way. So just try it. It's, some people may feel like it's harmful, but when you're with the right person and the right spiritual practice, it's not harmful at all. It's healing. It's safe. You are loved and cared for. Unfortunately, I do believe there are charlatans out there who do put fear into others and say that they have certain curses that they need to get erased, and certain and they try to steal people's money. I know that that's all over the internet these days. People trying to say that they can see someone's future and they need to give them $5,000 in order to correct something. At the end of the day, we don't have control over that. So if anyone ever were to go, we could go down that road, but I do. Yeah. So there's the good side of this world, and then there's the charlatan side of this world, just like anything else. There's there's good priests and there's bad priests. There's good presidents and there's bad presidents. There's good, there's a yin and yang to life, right? And so,
yeah, I agree. I
there's 5 topics for your next podcast.
Exactly.
Sorry.
We'll make that a reel.
I went off tangent there.
No, I love that, because those are things that people, identify with. So we talk about that on social media. We were just talking about communities. Often now I see people that are readers or in this type of community will have to post, listen, I'm never going to DM you and tell you I've got a message. I mean, now some people may be authentic and that's what they do. But for the most part, most professionals expect you to seek them if you need a service, right? So I'm always really leery. And I try to tell people that in my message, because people will clone your information or take your accounts, change the name slightly, so you really have to be careful in this day and age. But it's like everything, like you said, it's like everything. It's not just this community, people are always looking for a way to get a leg up on other people, and sometimes in not honest fashion. So for someone just starting their healing path, what's the first piece of advice you would offer them?
The first piece of advice I would offer them is congratulations. You are on the right path. Keep going. And you are always divinely connected. There is no right or wrong way to do this. Just keep following your heart and you will be led in the direction that you need to. Just Perfect. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah.
Absolutely perfect. I love that. I love seeing your journey, from the beginning. I think a lot of people will be able to identify with some of your experiences, because a lot of us do have very similar experiences, and it's nice to feel validated that sometimes it takes a little while to get on your path. I mean, quite honestly, I'm the same. It took me much longer to get to this space. So it's always lovely to see. So everyone, we'd love to thank Sarah for being here today and talking about her spiritual path and how she ended up doing a business with her abilities. And I hope that's resonated with many of you. Please feel free to look down into the description, and we'll list all of Sarah's social media, her websites, and different ways that that you can contact her. And we're just so thankful that she was able to join us today. Thank you, Sarah, so much.